Hey there, Gemini, Gemini rising, sun, and moon. Let's get into your August horoscope. So, August for you is going to push you out of your mental loop, Gemini, and into an emotional action. Unfortunately, this month you can't overanalyze or analyze details in order to get out of this is very personal to you. This is very physical. It's something that's tied to your ability to express, to trust, and to choose joy. On August 6th, Mars is going to be entering into your natal fifth house in Libra, and Mars in the fifth can feel very sharp. It can even feel it can even bring up conflict in some type of way. It is pushing you to define what kind of pressure you're really chasing. Like, is it fun? Is it a distraction? Is it passion? Is it ego? Your creativity may feel blocked and really tense at first, and your romantic partners or even joy can turn into these power plays. And Mars is really challenging your need to be liked and asking you to own your desire, whether it does make people uncomfortable or not. I think that Mars isn't as lighthearted in the fifth house, especially with Libra. It's definitely pushing you to define what kind of pressure, it is that you're chasing, Gemini. And on August 9th, we're going to be having Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune and Aries. And this one is definitely going to, cut pretty deep, I do think, because fifth this is your fifth house and your 11th house, and this is like you versus the crowd. You could want to follow your own bliss, you can want to take your own creative risks and speak your truth, and then comes along Saturn and Neptune holding this blurry mirror up to you in your 11th house, of community, of audience, of long-term vision. And Saturn is asking you, hey, like, playtime is over. It's time for you to prove your worth. And Neptune is like saying, like, you don't even know what you want. And I think Mars is bringing up, like, Mars is making you believe that you want joy, you want sex, you want love, you want art, and you want it to hit differently, but there's some resistance that comes from the outside, and you can feel blocked by friends, disillusioned by other people, even your own consciousness, you can feel drained by trying to please too many people. There I think that this is where you learn that not everyone is your like friend, or not everyone is your audience. Not every dream survives the pressure of like clarity. Not every dream is clear. Some are just thoughts, and not every connection is actually mutual. And then also on the 9th, we have the full moon in Aquarius happening in your natal ninth house of your belief systems, publishing, traveling, your higher self, and higher purpose. And I think something that is that you idolize ends, a belief system, maybe a mentor, maybe a class, a narrative that you thought was right, but it's being stripped away, because you're realizing, of course you're on a spiritual path, but maybe your world view is no longer valid. Maybe there is a long distance connection or travel plan that might shift, or that needs to shift, or you can feel like you're meant to pursue a different truth, a new truth, and like recycle the old ones that you have. This is a time, on the 9th, where you can experience a mental rupture, of an idea, of a thought, and it clears away or makes way for deeper philosophical and deeper, spiritual truths and understanding, deeper clarity, and it may not be comfortable, but it can definitely feel clearer and cleaner. On August 11th, Mercury is going to be going direct into Leo, and your chart ruler is Mercury, and it's changing direct in Leo within your third house of speech, of thinking, of communication, and Finally, I think this is pretty good because it's finally like your mind speeds up. There is a fog that clears, you know. There can be issues with technology, you know, like online. Even if you've had like issues, they can start to clear away, or they can come and you have the ability to fix them, or you have the patience to fix them. Even contracts can come up more with better ease. Conversations can be dealt with, and now you feel like what was stuck can now be unstuck. Um, you can feel much more sharper, you know, more intentional, Gemini. Um, it's like the days of over talking without direction or without like clear intention are done. You can now speak to be understood, you know, and people are listening. On August 12th, Venus is going to conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. This is happening in your natal second house, and this lights up your abundant energy. You know, the second house is the house of your resources, and Jupiter and Venus, you know, joining forces here. This is the house of self-esteem as well. You know, on one hand, this can be a financial blessing. You know, on the other hand, this can inflate your spending. You can spend more. You know, even your ego can be boosted a little bit. You can feel a bit of entitlement, Gemini. But either way, I think the message is what you value is expanding. You know, your self-esteem is expanding, and just make sure it's not based on someone's else visions of success or abundance. On August 22nd, the sun is going to be entering into Virgo. And this brings a spotlight to your fourth house, Gemini, of home, your roots, you know, your ancestry. And this is where you stop talking and you start handling your environment. You know, you can experience, you could have experienced family, you know, drama, even where to move, you know, where to be. Even if you have roommates, there could have been tension, and now it's clearer, you know, and you're at the center of it, and it's asking for clarity. You know, you're either fixing the cracks in your home base, or you're preparing to leave it behind, Gemini. On the 23rd of August, there's going to be a new moon in Virgo, and this is about starting a new emotional era for you, a new era of emotional security, because this is going to happen in your natal fourth house. And it isn't about a surface shift, it's more about an internal shift. You know, you may move, you know, you can go, you can move somewhere and go no contact with someone. You can feel as though you are redefining what home actually means. You know, it's less about comfort and more about like precision and more about alignment. This new moon is going to actually clear away what's been emotionally off for way too long. On August 25th, Venus is going to be entering into Leo in your third house. Your voice becomes magnetic again, Gemini, and you're more stylish, you know, you're more persuasive. You are now speaking with authority, you know, like you're persuasive, but it's now with authority. Venus and Leo in the third can really turn your words into attractors. You know, it can attract people. This is perfect for, you know, being online, perfect for public speaking, perfect for posting online, writing, um, even just journaling too. I think you should use it, and definitely don't waste it in talking, um, and just talking about things that other people are talking about, you know, like current events and the news and that nonsense. You know, definitely say something real, Gemini. August is where your mind sharpens and your emotional body catches up. You can keep, excuse me, Gemini, you can't keep entertaining people that drain you. You can't keep performing your joy. You know, Mars is forcing you to fight for your pleasure, and Saturn is making you own your vision. You know, Neptune is daring you to trust what you see or what you can't see, you know, because the veil is very thin, Neptune in Neptune in retrograde, the veil is actually very thin right now, and you're either building your voice or you're leaking your energy. It's definitely up for you to pick one. When you speak, you are speaking words of like power, Gemini. You have to be very careful that you're saying something real and not just gossiping or saying things, like I said, like current events. So that's all I have for you, Gemini. I hope that was helpful. Definitely like, comment, subscribe, please. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, Gemini.